Hello and welcome to another episode of We Are Not Wizards. My name's Richard. I'll be your host for September, because I'm not doing the days of the week anymore, because people keep thinking I'm missing out stuff and I'm not all the time. Joining me today or tomorrow or Wednesday or Friday, and I've just said I wouldn't do the days of the week and I already have, it is his Dukeness.
Dukeness, I like it.
He's the Duke of Cardboard. He is the master of dice. He is rolling around in his worker placement carriage. I give you the one, the only, His Royal Hugeness. It's Mr. Dan Hughes.
Thank you very much. You missed out the Cardinal of Cards. That's my other title. That's
it was off the bottom of my show notes because the title was so long that it went onto the second page, and I panicked about scrolling down.
That's fine. I will forgive you this minor lapse in kind of protocol.
I was really, you know how you can a thing where you're mucking about on your screen, you've got the Skype dialogue box open, and I'm thinking if I press a button, then this sucker's going to disconnect the call, and I'm just going to end up talking to myself, which is never going to be a good thing. Thank you very much for coming on.
No worries, thank you very much. It's been a long time coming. We've organised and I've cancelled a number of times, so I do apologise.
But it doesn't matter because you're here and it's September, which means we're getting rid of this horrible, muggy, hot weather, and we're getting
horrendous
into
heat. The horrendous heat.
Go out and I can wear a jacket and I can wear my scarf and I can wear my Minions gloves once again and be a happy man and still not get mocked in the street. I guess we better do the admin and say hello to everybody out there. Hello, everybody out there.
Hello.
The reason that we do this is because we've done 200 episodes, and it seems rude not to just stop and retire.
I'm disappointed. You've done 200 already, because last time I was listening to your podcast, you were approaching 200. Have you recorded it in? Has it been recorded but not aired, or have I just missed a podcast out?
No. That the 200 one is in the process of being finely tuned and owned and seasoned like a fine wild salmon.
Marvellous. Well, I'll look forward to that. I'll look forward to that.
And the other reason is because, as I say, me and Dan have been speaking back and forward for a bit, and it was about time to get him on so we could have a little chat about himself and where
it's my favourite topic, to be fair.
Shall we start proceedings, sir? Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and where you got into this top of tabletop hobby nonsense stuff things?
Yes, I can do. My name's Dan. Dan Hughes. I'm a nurse. I'm a father. I do various online things, and what I tend to do is do online things and quit them. That's my raison d'être. But yes, and I've been into. Depends. Like many people, I started board gaming and tabletop gaming and stuff when I was 20. I'm 42 now, so I'm old. And then I kind of fell away from it, and then I kind of had this big resurgence, kind of about 5 years ago. So it depends when you want to talk about where I started. Really, I started with D&D and Warhammer and Talisman. Oh dear.
It said like that's like a regretful thing. It's like,
man,
do you know what I mean? I used to do skateboarding, BMXing, bit shoplifting.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, well, it is like that, isn't it? If I could be guaranteed that taking up smoking would reduce the hours of my life where I was playing Talisman, then I'd be on 40 a day. I tell you, Talisman is abhorrent. It's an abhorrent abomination.
You should speak to Steve Tudor and Andy Lewis of Polyhedron Collider, because they hate it. In fact, I think they hate it potentially as much as you do. What's bad about Talisman? What's good about Talisman?
What's good about Talisman? That is exact. Talisman is one of those games. There's just nothing to it, is it? There's nothing to it. I don't mind games that are pure luck, but not ones that are pure luck that take 3 hours to play, and then at the end of it, you might as well just flip a coin to see who wins. It's an atrocious game. It's almost as bad as Betrayal on the House on the Hill, but it's not quite. Because people don't make excuses for Betrayal on the Hill. They don't say, oh, it's nostalgia, and people genuinely think Betrayal on the House of the Hill is a good game, and that baffles me. Everyone knows Talisman's rubbish, but they play it out on nostalgia. Yeah. And don't get me started on Flux. So, yeah.
Just go. We're straight into the hate, aren't we? We're straight
Yeah,
into the
I'm
vitriol.
I thought this was a hatred podcast.
It's not. It's the well.
No?
It's the fully funded Cool Mania or Not game. It's just to bring on your hate. All right, can we have more than 2 players? No, you can't. You can't do that. Right. No, it's a lot of hate, but it's just with 2 people.
Eat the plastic. Yeah.
They might as well have called it messy divorce then, if if it's only two players. I hear people. I've never heard any, but I've heard one person defend Talisman, which is John Cage, and he's not the Mortal Kombat guy. He's maybe kind of wrong, but he kind of then got Andy to play it, and you should listen. They put a podcast out recently, and Andy played it, and it was one of those things you were expecting him to say, no, actually, pondering my previous thoughts about this game, I can now actually see the attraction. He went straight for the throat. There
is no redeeming quality. I've got a friend who says, "Oh, the fun is and you can get it on an app. Where's the enjoyment in the app? That's what I want to know. I can sort of see, because I've got a friend Lee who likes it, and he says, "Oh, it's about laughing at other people getting turned into frogs and just a bit of silliness." And he's talking rubbish, but I can see where he's coming from. But you can get it on an app where you can play on your own on the toilet. It's like, well, what? I don't get it.
I'd rather be looking at one of those fitness apps and then realising how guilty I feel about not doing any exercise if I'm being perfectly honest.
Yeah, but if you're on the toilet, you're losing weight, so that's fine.
It depends how much Talisman you've eaten the night before.
That's very true. I once investigated whether breaking wind before weighing yourself was a positive or a negative thing for your weight loss journey, and it's a negative thing for your weight loss journey because your methane is lighter than air, so you are slightly levitated while you contain it. So,
is actually just cows are actually just vegetarian balloons waiting to float
exactly.
away.
Yeah, that's it. That's why you have to tie them down. Yeah,
that's why the bull's about. He's got to stop the cows from come back.
They're not mating, They're just trying to stop them floating off. That's what it is. When on each other's backs. That's not hanky panky. That's just
gently goes about and punches them.
Yeah.
Very slowly. And sometimes you can see if the bull's been a bit too excited because he's went round and done a whole field and they're all just lying down and they can't get up because they're too heavy.
That's too heavy. That's it. That's exactly what happens.
I have no idea. Anything at all.
Oh, anything at all. That's my favourite kind of podcast.
That's the best kind of podcast that there is. So, leaving Warhammer, because Warhammer is one of these hidden addiction things, because I've yet to meet somebody who kind of went, I used to play Warhammer as a kid. I had 3 armies, and I had some dice, and that was it. I've heard... Are you the minimalist? Would you say you're a couple of squads, or would you say this is shelf number 47 going up?
Wow, that's interesting. No, I what I tend to do is go all in on whatever I do. So I'm a man who burns very brightly. So I go all in. So recently I got back into Warhammer. I got into Age of Sigmar and stuff. So I ended up buying, because there was a new Soul Wars box set. And someone very kindly, the guys from the Game Pick very kindly, I don't know if I should be saying this actually, I don't know if it's, they very kindly gave me their copy of it for me to review on their podcast at a later date. So I went all in and I bought all the stuff. I got that for free, that box set free, but then I must have spent another 100, 200 quid on, as long as my wife's not listening. I apologise, that's a very tired joke and a sexist joke, but it happens to be true in my case. Anyway, so I bought all the stuff and then I played it a few times, and do you know what? I'm not so good for Warhammer stuff, so I'm selling it all again now. But yeah. So I have got a few squads. Kill Team's a new thing from Games Workshop.
Yes,
and that's very exciting. I am into that. But the bigger ones take so long. They take so long to play, and when you're losing, it takes you so long to lose. But you know you're losing right from the start, and it's like It's 3 hours to watch myself lose.
It's like watching a small child at the bottom third stair taking a wee tumble, and you're just far enough away to know what's going to happen, but you're not close enough to save them. and it's not a nasty tumble, but it's just very, very slowly. They bump down on their little bum 3 or 4 times. And you know they're not going to get hurt, but and sometimes they're going to get a bit of a fright and they're going to be upset. And there's nothing worse than you're sitting playing a game, and you're like, I can't win this, but if I flip the table now, people are going to get upset, and I don't want to be known as that type of person.
That's it. So you're silently containing your inner rage, which I'm not very good at silently containing my inner rage either. So it's quite an effort. And it's quite obvious what I'm doing.
These figures.
My face is going slowly purple and
twitching away.
That's it. No, it's fine. It's fine. No. So I'm much better at losing board games than I am war games. So I'm kind of moving away from all that now. But I do like Kill Team, which is very good. I mean, Games Workshop are really hitting out the park at the moment with their stuff, and it's just relentless. Just relentless the stuff they're coming out with.
Yeah, I remember I don't know. I remember the original days of going in and kind of looking at kind of like the advanced kind of Space Crusade and the advanced Hero Quest, and that led me kind of looking at the kind of the Warhammer stuff. My own son brought home his first little kind of Warhammer set.
Ooh.
And I don't know, it was one of those. He's a young pup, and he says, "Look, I've got something to show you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, is it a puppy?" He went, "No." And then he says, "Look here, I've got Warhammer, we can start." And must say I'm really, really kind of impressed. As far as the rules go, I was completely confused. I had no idea what was going on, because it's one of these things, he wasn't really doing a very good explanation of the rules. So he was like, right, roll the dice, they hit, okay, then you've got to roll these dice, okay, that's that, and then you've got to roll this for this damage, and then obviously
there's a lot of that going on. There is a lot of that going on.
I like the idea of cards potentially being involved in games,
Yeah, well, I mean, the reason they do all that rolling is because you roll so many dice that really it's not random at all, because they all average out. That's why there's so many dice in Warhammer, because the more dice you roll, and I'm going to sound like I know what I'm talking about mathematically now, and I've got no idea. But the more dice you
diagrams, Dan.
Yeah,
I'm waiting for diagrams.
The more dice you roll, the more likely it is you're going to get an average result overall. If you roll 1 dice, you're going to get either a 1 or a 6. If you roll 20 dice, then some of them, there's going to be more likely to be they're not all going to be 6s, are they? Let's face it. So that's why they do it, to make it kind of less random rather than more random, which is interesting. But yeah, no. So I mean, I'm not an expert in Warhammer and stuff. I've just been dabbling. I dabble in a lot of things. I like to dabble.
Is it? I mean, do you? You said you're kind of jumping all in. So have you done a lot of times where you kind of jumped all in and then it's not kind of being played? I mean, I was a bit guilty about that with, I think, Armada. Star Wars Armada, because I reviewed
I did it with X-Wing.
Oh, how many ships did you have? Have you still?
I had a lot of ships. No, I sold it a week before they announced the second edition, which I'm incredibly smug about.
Did not come back and ask for a refund then?
No, they didn't. I even sold it to a trader, which I'm sure they were upset about. I had a lot of ships. I mean, I did play it quite a lot with my son, but that's the only person I played it with. I had all these ships, and really all we could have done with is a few X-wings and a handful of TIE fighters, and would have been fine. But no, I had to get all the stuff because I go all in. But I'm very quick to sell things again afterwards, so I always think of it as renting rather than. I tend to rent my games. Yeah. I mean, I obviously lose money on everything, but they're not all sitting in the attic somewhere. They come in when I lose interest, they go out again, and I spend that on. It's a bit like that guy. Did you ever read about that guy who ended up swapping a rubber band for a house? Or
yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. I do that in reverse. So I'll end up with a copy of Flux at the end of this, like my gaming career. One solitary copy of Flux.
You'd be lucky if you get love. You're lucky if you get love letter at the end of it, I think.
Yeah.
And even then, you'll only have the princess card, and that'll be it.
Well,
then you'll be Dan with his princess card.
But I've got a copy. That's it. I've got a copy of Love Letter because I made my own version of Love Letter, which was based on Dad's Army. So Captain Mannering is the princess, and it goes all the way down to Pike. I'll send you a copy of the cards.
I need to see this.
I
need to print
it's
and
good.
play this. Do you know what I mean? Because the king's nice and everything like that, but you just because you would not be able to play that game without trying to put the voices on.
No, I've got little quotes on the bottom of it for everyone as well.
That's brilliant.
So
Have you got?
One of my proudest achievements was that Dad's Army love letter, which doesn't go to say much about my life, does it? Or my regard for my children. So yeah.
But is it not one of those games that you just go through and go, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead? Are they all dead now in Dad's Army?
I think Ian Lavender's still going.
Is
Pike,
he?
I think he's still going. But yeah,
He's
most of them are dead.
Such a disappointment. You stupid boy.
You stupid boy.
So you took a break. This is good because it's amazing I'm able to kind of bring the thread back into where we were. So you took a break, you said, because you started off
I did.
like that, and you took a break. What got you back into the fold? Was it something magical? Was it something wonderful? Was it something accidental?
It was. Well, I came back. I skirted around the edges for a little bit actually, because my friend. I used to have a friend I still have a friend who worked at a computer game warehouse, who were dabbling in board games. So he used to bring these board games back, and we played them. And it was Shadows over Camelot. So when was that? I don't know. That was in 2005, 2008, something like that. So I remember playing that and just being amazed at this cooperative game, because I'd never, you'd never come across cooperative game. I was doing a bit of role playing in between here and there, and playing a lot of poker as well, actually. Yeah, and then it was War of the Ring we played as well, and that was incredible. And then I kind of drifted away again. The games nights kind of stopped. We stopped playing poker or board games. And then what really brought me back in was Carcassonne. I played Carcassonne at this friend's house just one night, and I just came home and just bought it. And then, as everyone does, you Google things and you discover there's a whole world out there. And there we go. And I was in. So I ended up I didn't have enough people to play board games with. So I ended up starting a board game group with my the few people I could scrape together. And that grew and grew. I mean, we're very lucky in Huddersfield, and we've got a very good board game shop who's very kind to people who want to play board games here, IQ Games, and I founded the Noble Order of Huddersfield Board Gamers, and that's grown from strength to strength. We get like 50 people a week now going there, although I'm no longer at the helm. But yeah, so then and I met loads of really good friends now through board gaming.
Was it easy to start up? I mean, was there a bit of trepidation, or was it one of these things that like board gamers seem to crawl out the woodwork? I mean, I think it's like, do you know, I don't know if you heard about, say for instance, like Tabletop Scotland, which was on a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, it looks really good. I was thinking about going next year.
It was really, really just an amazing kind of experience. I was there for the Saturday, and I think everything from getting to the place to even do you know how much the parking was, Dan?
How much was the parking?
Are you sitting down?
I can do, yes. No, I am sitting down. You're the one standing up.
Right, okay. It was a pound.
A pound?
A pound for. Do you know how
that'll
long
buy
that,
you
do you know how long
minute.
that was for? Do you know how long that was?
Was it
for?
a minute, like at UK Games Expo? Pound a minute they charge there.
8 hours.
8 hours. Pound for 8 hours.
Pound for 8 hours.
That's all right, isn't it?
Now I'm Scottish, so you can imagine my cup of joy absolutely overflowed. Right, my thing about the UK Games Expo is I am worried that I don't particularly want to be in a place where I'm going to find it difficult to get out. Do you know what I mean? Where I find difficult to find some me time to myself, where I can take a little bit of a breather and get away from all the crowds. I like people on an individual basis, hence, the podcast kind of thing. But the ability to be able to walk away from everything and have a couple of minutes of yourself time can be a very, very important thing for me. What I found at Tabletop Scotland was you got that. It was busy, but it wasn't crowded. It was friendly, but you never felt under pressure.
Under pressure, yeah.
It was a really kind of a joyous experience. But it made me wonder if you're the type. I mean, did the numbers grow quite quickly at the club when you set it up, or did it take some time?
Not particularly. I mean, the group is why I ended up being in board game media, because what happened was, I set up with a group of like 5 friends, and I said, "You're coming down here, and we're playing games here instead of my house, because I want more people to come." And so I started I was on Board Game Geek, so every time anyone said, "Anyone know anywhere to play in West Yorkshire?" I was like, "Oh, well, you can come down." You know what I mean? I was actively touting for business, basically, and it grew a little bit. And the store helped us out as well, and they kind of mentioned us now and again, and friends of friends and all that kind of stuff. But what really kind of kicked it off was I thought, what we want to do is get mentioned on a big board gaming podcast. And the Dice Tower was the biggest board gaming podcast around. Yeah. So I submitted a segment to Tom Vassell on how to start your own board game club, and he played it, and every second word was Noble Order of Huddersfield Board Gamers. You know, I was really plugging my and, you know, I made a joke out of it as well. You know, I did it blatantly and very knowingly. But that kind of got the name out there to the local area. I mean, we weren't swamped with thousands of people, but you know, because the Dice Tower is often the first podcast you find, isn't it? When you type board gaming into the second one's obviously We're Not Wizards, but the first one is the Dice Tower. And so that, you know, that got us a few people as well. And then I was in the kind of board game media world, and then you know, you like the attention, don't you? Really. So that's where I stuck at it.
Yeah, I think it's one of these things. I think you start off and you say, "Well, I'm not going to do this, I'm not going to do that," and then you end up kind of slowly doing kind of everything. But it depends how you do it in moderation. I think it's easy. Yeah. I think you have to start kind of not palming stuff off, but knowing your limits and knowing when to pass it on to other people, or potentially kind of almost like better people in case of me. I mean, we've got a blog now, but I have people that write on the blog. We don't do YouTube videos because I have got a face that looks like a bag of spanners has attacked a dead warthog. You know, I'm not an attractive looking person. I admit that, and if I went on camera, I would only scare people away. And they're not going to want me kind of taking them through a playthrough, only if they were wanting to have nightmares. Like Nick Ross used to say on Crime Watch. But then, I guess on the other side of it, I mean, did you go all out yourself? I mean, did you start to get into the review pieces then? I mean...
No, I don't really do reviews. The only thing I do is kids' games reviews with my daughter Cora. That's the thing that... I don't know if anyone's known the best for. You know, I don't believe anyone in this industry is a celebrity. Do you know what I mean? I was saying the other day, you know, the highest number views that Tom Vassell's got on one of his videos. I was watching a video on how to put up a tent the other day, and it had twice that number. We're in a very, very small world here, and it feels like people may be celebrities, but they're certainly not. And Tom certainly doesn't consider himself as that, because I've spoken to him about it. And anyone who does consider themselves as being, you know, something not above people, do you know what I mean? But something special is deluding themselves. Anyway, what was the question? I don't do reviews. I go through kids' games, but if I did an honest review, it's a bit boring, really. But you know, the kids like it. That's basically every single kids' game, isn't it? Really.
It gets me a nice Sunday afternoon before we can take them out to the park. We can kind of get stuff done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I do enjoy playing games with my daughter, but it's not the games that I'm enjoying. It's the spending time with my daughter that I'm enjoying. And I like the fact she likes games, and she'll develop into hopefully somebody who likes the same kind of games as me. But I'm not rushing to push that either. But you know, kids' games are kids' games, and some of them are a little bit better than others. But they're all very simple, just because the fact they need to be understood by young kids. I mean, the games I review up until very recently have been games for preschoolers, so it's not like, you know, it's not Agricola. But yeah, so I don't do reviews. I think it's the other stuff I've done is This Game Is Broken, which is the kind of I'm sorry, I haven't a clue type thing, and that's something I set up. I've backed away from that now because it just ended up being too much work and too much stress. To be honest, it was like a you know, people get paid to do that for a living, and I don't want to be one of those people who gets paid to do that kind of thing for a living. I was the producer and the host. I've spoken about that various places in the past. So I've moved away from that, and I've actually moved back into kind of a general chatty podcast now. I've just set up a new podcast with Mike Delisio. Do you know Mike Delisio?
Name rings a bell, yeah.
He does solo reviews on the Dice Tower. He's a very nice man. And we've got a new podcast called I'm going to plug it now. Is that all right?
Plug away, sir.
Sporadically Bored. That's what we call Sporadically Bored.
That sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, but bored as in board games, obviously.
I was gonna actually ask that question. I was just gonna.
That's how you spell it. For the hordes coming to. Hordes descending on Google now saying, Sporadically Bored, that sounds amazing. Is it a podcast where you ramble incoherently about virtually everything apart from board games? Well, yes, it is.
Sounds like my show. You don't try to take a format.
Well, that's why I enjoy your show. I always believe you should try and create what you want to listen to. And if you're chasing listeners and if you're chasing audience figures, then it's just going to lead to misery, in my opinion. Because you should do what you're interested in.
The audience finds you as well. I mean, we don't get tons of downloads, and that's a fact, and I accept that. But we do. I mean, we do well. We do. I mean, the figures are on the website if anyone cares. It's there. We broke 46,000 downloads recently. Does that mean? I'm hoping that what that means is out of that number, at least 46,000 people cracked a smile at least halfway through a show or a part of a show. I just want people to kind of enjoy it and kind of be happy. I mean, is it difficult?
Or alternatively, 46 people, 46, they turned off halfway through. That could also be the case.
That could also
you don't get stats on that, do you?
No, you don't. Thanks for that.
No.
Bringing that misery into my life. Is it difficult to walk away from media once you started to create media? I mean, obviously, this Game Is Broken became a darling. Everybody was quoting it. Everybody was talking about, this is the thing you need to listen. It was getting rave reviews. And when you walked away, look, I do this, and just like you, I don't, get paid really anything. I do it for the joy. I do it for the fun. I do it to gig as I get to speak to people like yourself. But when you're not getting paid, it becomes more and more difficult to justify it, especially if you're spending time away from your intended, if you know what I mean. It's easier for me, it's easier for me to say, "Oh, honey, I'm just going upstairs to do a voiceover. How much are you getting for that? I'm getting X, whatever dollars or whatever." And that's easy because it's like, well, off you trot because you're about to make some money. If I'm saying, right, if I'm off to record a 2-hour podcast and then I'm going to spend the next kind of 6 hours editing it and putting it all together and everything like that, and then it's like, are you kind of sure? But at the same time, my original question was, once you're getting involved in creating media, is it difficult to stay away from creating media? Because it sounds to me like you are still being pulled back in creating media.
Yeah. Well, it depends. Sorry, it depends why the reasons you were moving away for, doesn't it? Really. I think I personally have always got the creative urge to create, and I've always been involved in online media in some way or form. I used to blog about 14 years ago, and I had quite a successful blog at the time. I was courted by Disney. I got a free holiday to France to review it, and depending on how you want to measure success. But I had a relatively successful parenting blog. When I talk about parenting in amusing anecdotes and all that kind of stuff. And then I used to podcast as well with a friend called Lee, who I'm still doing a podcast with now. Lee and Dan's Marvel Unlimited Book Club, where we review comic books. But I podcasted with him for 6 or 7 years, and again we built up quite a following. But it doesn't really matter, I don't think. I think it is quite easy to walk away because I don't feel you owe anybody anything, really. The only reason it was hard to walk away from This Game Is Broken is because I felt like I was letting the other guys down, and I made a very big, Nick Murphy and Mike Murphy and Matthew Jude and Dave Loser. I made very sure that the podcast could go on without me before I stepped away, because I didn't want to let them down. But ultimately, this is a hobby for me. I've got no intent to make it a career. A lot of people in board game media do want to do board game media as a career. I can't think of anything worse. It's going to be, well, it'd be so unstable. It'd be so unstable. I've got a regular paycheck in now. I don't, you know. So I can't think of anything worse. So I don't want to make it a career. So if I'm not enjoying it, then there's no point doing it, really.
No.
And you do owe the people who supported you something, but only to a certain extent, because there's no point making yourself miserable and stressed to service an audience that, you know, will move on to something else. You know, it's tomorrow's chip paper, in my opinion. And board game, anyway, this game is working, still going without me. With you know, still getting accolades, still doing, you know, everything. So it's fine. It's fine.
But you're still back. You're back, still doing podcasts.
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I am because I'm a narcissist at heart, and I think that people should listen to me and do exactly what I say. I am back, but I'm back in a way that's a lot more relaxed and a lot more. A bit like the podcast I'm doing is very much like this, in that I turn up and talk and then go away again. Whereas This Game Is Broken was, as soon as we finish an episode, I'm planning the next one. I'm booking the guests in. I'm writing all the questions. I'm making sure we're not repeating rounds too often. I'm negotiating who goes first and all that kind of stuff. It was real effort, and one of the reasons we kind of exploded so quickly. Well, there was two reasons. I think one's because we were doing something very original. It was a board gaming panel show. No one really focuses on entertainment, I don't think, in the board game media. It's all on information. And I'm a big believer that the board game media is very ready now for pure entertainment shows, not just information shows, not just review shows. If you look at music media, if you look at computer game media, even they've grown now past the need to just do reviews, and it's all about entertainment. And I believe that's where board game media is doing, and I wanted to get in on that. I wanted to see if I could do it, but now I've seen if I could do it, and it worked. But the other reason that it became so popular is because I put a lot of effort into publicising it, and that takes a toll, and it's pretty soulless work, isn't it? Marketing. It doesn't matter what guise it's in. You know, trying to manipulate people into consuming your product is not, it's not nourishment for the soul, is it?
No, and it's also the old thing about, you know, you'll put together something which you think is an excellent bit of marketing, only to find that it's like it kind of makes enough noises like a mouse farting. And then you'll write a completely random tweet, and the next thing you know, it's going viral with about, 400,000 kind of retweets on it. And, you know, that was the story of me comparing board gaming to frozen pizza. And I put the tweet out, and next thing I know, my phone's buzzing away like it's kind of like doing a happy dance to itself. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? I didn't plan it. It was a throwaway thing, and yet this thing's doing like figures. And I'm like, no! Why wasn't it this? No, not that one. That one makes me look like an idiot. I don't want that one. Not this one. Choose that one instead, kind of thing. It's just like, I can't even decide. It's not even fair, you know.
And you see that on Twitter as well, don't you? If you ever click on one of these viral tweets, you've always got this desperate tweet about halfway down from the original person saying, "Oh, check out my online comic," because it's just taken off. It's interesting.
Check out
the whole world of Twitter. Yeah. Click on my SoundCloud, or usually it's a political one. It's all about, I've got this Patreon account. It's like, just because I agree with you politically, don't say I'm going to give you any money. But I don't know. It's just interesting, isn't it? I mean, I'm really sorry. I'm talking a lot, but I'm really into this. The fact that media these days has not got any gatekeepers anymore. If you've got enough money to buy an iPhone, then you've got everything you need to record a radio show, a podcast, but a radio show effectively, or a TV show, on YouTube or whatever, and reach the entire world. Now that means there's a lot of dross out there, and I'm guilty of, producing as much dross as the next person. But the fact that you've got there's no TV executive there. If you've got an original, clever idea, then and enough luck, there's a chance you could it could reach a lot of people. And I think that's amazing. And I get quite cross with my friends who are like, "Oh, YouTuber, what do these YouTubers do?" It's like, well, what do loose women do? they're getting paid for nothing. Same as the YouTubers getting paid for drivel. It's
I
fine.
tell you what, I saw the other day, right, my son, bless him, watches, he went from watching kind of like, let's do unboxing of toys.
Yeah.
And he's watching these couple of teenagers doing kind of like, they take food, they mix it together, they make it all sticky, and then they eat it. And I was like, you look at it and you go, this is the biggest, they do the biggest thing is to do a real food challenge and a gummy challenge, because in America, obviously, the type of food is, you can get kind of like sweetie anything. So they're like, oh, yeah. I've got a cooked breakfast under my plate. What have you got? I've got a gummy breakfast under my plate. And they lift it up and it's like bacon made out of jelly and all that kind of nonsense. And I was like going, this is actual just pish. And then I looked at the download figures, the number of plays, and it's like, 1,700 million gazillion thousand views. And it's like, these guys are like making more money in a month than I am in a year, and I am not jealous at all. I am so jealous. But one of the things that they did is they just like, one of the guys had to go to the dentist, obviously, if you're doing nothing but eating sweets all the day, and he got his wisdom tooth taken out. And it's obviously, they must have put him on the good stuff, because he was spaced out of his face. So his brother spends an entire episode filming this guy out of his face on Novocaine or whatever it was, tripping out of his little tiny mind. And I'm just like, I don't know if I want my son to watch this, but it was just like, it was just like going, the curtains, and it's just like, what's going on here? But then that's the type of media, and you're right when you say like, it's like something like that gets 72 trillion views, and then you get somebody like, you get a couple of guys going, we did really well this month. We got 2,000 views on our YouTube video for the latest unboxing for Kill Team or whatever, and you're like going, and these guys are seen as being well known and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
The only guys I ever see doing kind of even reasonably big figures is Rodney Smith doing his Watch It Played, but even then they're not. There's a guy over there kind of like painting eggs to be different colours of the Marvel characters from the Marvel Universe and then smashing them off his forehead, and he's getting 10 times the views that Rodney's getting for, getting 10 times the views that Rodney getting for doing, okay, here's the latest playthrough for Founders of Gloomhaven. The other guy's going, Hulk smash! Remember, like and subscribe and ping the bell to get the notifications kind of thing. I'm like,
that sounds incredibly entertaining to me, though, to be fair. But I don't know. It's just I think we forget in the board gaming world that we live in such a small world, and we keep saying, oh, board gaming is going mainstream because a box was shown on Great British Bake Off. It's like, yeah.
I saw that.
Well, we all saw that, didn't we? Because everyone had kind of ooh.
It's like people going. They've got Star Wars characters in E.T. Did you see that? It's like, yeah, wow, Star Wars toys have gone mainstream. Isn't that crazy? Yes, it is. We're so lovely, kind of thing. And it's like that same kind of thing. And it's just like we're kind of. It's really funny because we're in this kind of middle of the road, because you've obviously got people that are kind of like, I want and need the board game hobby to be very mainstream, and I welcome that. And then you've got the other people which are just kind of saying, go and stay away from my hobby because I like it as it is, please, before you all kind of turned up and tried to make it all popular. I like it being how it is, thank you very much, goodbye, good night, kind of thing. It's kind of like a weird kind of thing. As it grows, more people are interested, and then there's people saying, I don't necessarily want people being interested because I liked it kind of how it was, but also
how it was, yeah.
I don't know. I think you're right on the entertainment side of things. Where do board games go for kind of entertainment? I mean, is for every... Because, I mean, I've seen a lot of friends fall in the podcast world, and what I mean by that is you see them put out episodes for a year, 2 years, and then for whatever reason they just finish up. That's all finished and that's all kind of gone. And there's always a couple other people kind of in their place to come along. I guess the one thing is we've only got a finite number of names, Dan, in terms of what could you call your board game podcast.
That's it,
media kind of thing.
Yes,
I'm trying to get to like...
and I'm scraping the bottom of the barrel with Sporadically bored, I think. But,
it's absolutely brilliant. How long before? I don't know. It's like, I've always made this joke before about in Scotland you get different names of hairdressers. There only seems to be about 3 different names. There's like Cut Up and Dye,
Yeah.
Scissors.
Scissor Sisters, yeah.
Scissors 2. Because obviously the business owner was successful but not really imaginative.
Yep.
Which is always kind of good. And I'm just wondering where do we kind of go? What's the next big thing? I mean, are there people that you, being kind of like involved in the media type of stuff, is there folk that you kind of listen to on a regular basis that you're kind of like thinking, these guys should do so much better. These guys should be. Everybody should be listening to them. Or
yes. Well, I mean, I'm a massive fan of Board Games in Bed. Have you listened to Board Games in Bed?
I've had them on the show. I've had
them
them
on
the show.
I apologise. I missed that episode.
Well, there's 200 of them, Dan. So it's
yes. Yeah.
It must
have been relatively recently because they've only been. But I very much like Board Games in Bed, and the reason I like them is because they're not perpetuating this consumerist push and drive that a lot of board game media does, because a lot of board game media is all about consumption and what's the next big thing and what's your Essen list, and even when Essen's there, it's talking about what's coming in for Christmas and what's the next Gen Con, and just constant buy. Whereas the ladies from Board Games in Bed are just talking about what they've been playing, and 90% of the time it's Battlestar Bloody Galactica.
Just love that. I love that.
Yeah, I really like them. I like I can't remember what they're called now. Is it Inside the Box, Outside the Box, Behind the Box? Anyway, whatever. There's a comedy troupe who kind of do sketches around board games on YouTube, and they're very good. And it baffles me why they're not bigger. I can't remember what they're called. Anyway, I go through phases. Sometimes I consume board game media rampantly, and sometimes I don't. It depends on how immersed I am in board gaming as it is. I mean, my board gaming passions ebb and flow a little bit. Sometimes I'm, all about the new games, and sometimes I'm like, I only want to play my 2 games that I like. I'll and I don't need any more than Nippon and Pursuit of Happiness. And after that, I've done Railways of the World, Keyflower. That's it. 4 games, I'll be happy. So yeah. I mean, what about yourself? Do you feel there's an unsung hero?
There's guys that I listen to all the time. Board Games in Bed is definitely one of them. I love them because they just sit there and have a chat, and they've got to that stage where they are just having a chat. I obviously don't like them because I'm insanely jealous of the amount of games that they seem to play all the time.
Well, there's two of them.
Exactly. And they both love the hobby, and it's just like, and this week it's been a quiet week. Here's a list of the 17 that we've played, and I was just like that. How are you doing this? Why are you doing this? It's like, can I move in? Kind of thing, because that would be kind of an idea of we're getting all these kind of games kind of played. Ones that I listen to on a regular basis, Magic and Steel's been around for a long time.
I don't know that one.
D&D kind of playthrough podcast, and they're an awful lot of fun. I listen to them a lot. I always like obviously Broken Meeple, Luke Hector, because there is nothing better than a ranty Luke Hector.
I played a game once with Luke Hector, and he did my trick of raging furiously, but not really knowing me, so not feeling like he can and let loose. He wasn't happy at all. It's like lighting the blue touch paper, and do you know, I think he's fantastic. I've always kind of listened to his stuff. Polyhedron Collider as well. I think those boys should be stratospherically huger than what they are just now, because they have definitely served their time, and the stuff that they put out, they constantly put out content all the time. They're, the podcast is just hilarious. The guys have got their chemistry down to a T. It's never anything forced. Do you know what the other thing is as well that I really, really like about them is they're not afraid to turn around and say something's crap. Mm-hmm. Which is, I think, is something that the board game media kind of needs. You need to get over yourself and actually say things are pretty bad. And I've seen, we don't want to go the same way as the video game market. And I was speaking about this recently to a friend to say, we don't want to go down the 7 out of 10 market with board games.
is that the great thing about Polyhedron Collider, and they even commented on this in this latest podcast. If you don't listen to the podcast, listen to our podcast first, and then listen to their podcast, half of it, maybe second. But they're quite happy to say we didn't like this game. It didn't work for us. It was pretty poor. The mechanics didn't work, and I think that's kind of like a brave thing to do. There's a lot of people that still say, "Well, I didn't like it, but if you're a fan of the genre, then maybe you'll get something out of it." So. Those are the kind of guys that I really,
you're
really
very British focused.
Yeah, well, they've got the Scottish guys as well. You've got Unlucky Frog podcast. You've also got Brainwaves that are out there. I obviously listen. There's your normal guys, your Blue Peg, Pink Pegs of this world as well. They're always kind of...
Yes, I like those guys. I chat with Patrick occasionally on Facebook. Because I'm a friend to the stars, Friend to the stars. I'm kind of a big deal on the internet,
Did you find that though? Did it? I mean, when people were, did you find that you ended up chatting to people you wouldn't normally have dreamed of chatting? There was a couple of folk that kind of like opened their doors and you were having conversations with them. Yeah.
I think that I've met all the core Dice Tower people quite a few times now, and I'm still quite intimidated by Tom, to be honest. I still, out of all the people I have met, that board game celebs type person, Tom is still the one I still kind of go, ooh, Tom Vassell. And some people don't like him. I think he's great, Tom. I really like him. He's a lovely man as well. But I think the thing that really changed getting to know people was when I went to Dice Tower Con. I went to Dice Tower Con. I've been twice now, but I went the first time I went to Dice Tower Con a couple of years ago. And because I was on the Dice Tower in a very small way, people knew my face, and I got talking to Gary Pope, and this time around Mike Delisio, who's become a very good friend of mine, and Matthew Jude as well, who I didn't know before doing the Dice Tower stuff, and now he's one of my best friends. And Dave Loser and the Murphys, of course, as well. They're fantastic. So they're just people. Ultimately, at the end of the day, there are people who you can tell there's definitely hierarchies going on. I'm not going to name any names. Gary Pope. No, that's not true at all. I'm not going to name any. There's definitely hierarchies going on in some people's minds, but not in the big people's minds. Not in the not in the Z's and the Erics and the Sams. I mean, Sam's. I had assumed that me and Sam wouldn't. There wouldn't be anything there because he's quite gruff on person, but he's such a warm, pleasant man. It's just they're just people, obviously, and they don't, and they know they're just they're just people. It's just people. So it's just like chatting to you. I mean, I've not really chatted to you before, but you've got something in common. You've got board game in common, and off you go.
Yeah.
You try and make each other laugh, and there you go.
I know. I think that's it's a nice common ground to have because the nature of board games themselves relies on me sitting down in front of you and there being some kind of level of interaction. You can't get away from that. You don't get it, as I said time and time again. You don't get that in video games nowadays. They seem to be pushing away from this kind of into this anonymity. But I can sit down with. Do you know what? I'll tell you what. Here's a tale. Okay, met Ross from More Games, Please. Yeah.
Yeah.
Delightful guy.
Yeah.
Spent pretty much the entire day with him at Tabletop Scotland, bar a couple of him running away and saying, leave me alone. But we sat down, we played a couple of games, it was just, and you've got that connection there and everything else, you've got tons of stuff you can talk about. You can talk about. There's the commonality, there's a common ground. You can then play a game and you're having like a fun experience or a challenging experience. And Ross was just, I was so glad I met him on that day. It made the day, the whole event, Tabletop Scotland, it was like fantastic. I met a whole pile of other people which I've had on the show, which is really strange.
Yeah.
To actually meet people that you've kind of interacted with online and then interacted with in a podcast manner. Like I met Owen Costello.
The Guardian guy.
Yes, yeah, the Dice Summoners. Decking awesome games. And we had a chat and it was weird kind of meeting somebody. It was just But you automatically had something in common. You could automatically have some common ground, which was kind of really cool and really important. Do you think the board game hobby can continue to expand? Do you think board games are getting too expensive now?
Yes, I think board games are getting overproduced. I think they're ridiculous prices in the UK. I know they're quite expensive in the US and stuff, but they're ridiculous prices these days in the UK. I think there's too many coming out. We talk quite extensively about this on my new podcast, Sporadically Bored, which you can find on iTunes. But I think there's a bubble, and I do think there's a bubble. And the only people who I see who are denying there's a bubble are either board game producers who have got a vested interest in denying there's a bubble, or big board game reviewers and stuff, who and they would say this is an unfair thing to say, but they don't have to pay for their games.
That's controversial. You can't say things like that, Dan. But I mean, we're just getting over the. I mean, I walked home from Tabletop Scotland with a couple of preview versions, and I'm going to be sending them back, and I'm still in that awkward space where somebody says, "I'll send you a copy of the game," and it's like, no, mate, because that's 30 quid of your money you're just chucking at me. You might as well give me 30 quid. But no, I see where you're coming from.
I do get some free copies of games, but usually, well, they're always kids' games, and I've got enough kids' games, so I don't need any more. It is genuinely just kind of grist for the mill, really. It's just more content so I can, keep my Z-list internet fame on Dice Tower for a bit longer by exploiting my daughter. But the.
Spoken like a true caring father.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with a bit of, In years gone by, you used to send them down the mines. Now you just stick them in front of a camera and say, "Look cute, damn you! Otherwise, you're not getting fed tonight."
You have a lot of sweets. Have a lot of sweets. Pretend here's the one that's a fried egg. Pretend to feel like a real egg, or pretend strawberry fried egg or whatever. And it's just like, what? That's where we are, though.
No, it's fascinating world. I do think there's a bubble. I think there's too many games coming out. I also think that there's going to be a point where board game is going to be so mainstream, or it gets to the point where it gets so mainstream, people like myself will retreat into the heavier games, I think. Because board gaming will get mainstream, but it will be games like, if it does, it will be games like King of Tokyo and Ticket to Ride and stuff, which are all great games. I'm happy to play them, but that's not. I want to play a lot more than those. I'm happy to play them now and again, but I want the meat. I want the, as I say, Nippon. I want the I can't think of anything now, but the meatier games. So I think there'll still be a hobby within a hobby, and I think if board gaming expands to the point where people think it is going to do, then it won't be a hobby anyway. It'll just be like saying I like watching TV as a hobby, but that's not really a hobby. So yeah. It's
also strange to see backlash about Kickstarter hype and people getting games delivered and then saying, actually, I know me and 3,000 other people kind of back this game, but I'm not sure I like it. I'm not sure. I think I kind of got into the hype train. And I've seen that on Founders of Gloomhaven. I've seen a few people kind of say, "Oh, this isn't. I was expecting more gold," and I was quite disappointed. And I was kind of like, "Yeah, but you bought into the hype of the product. You didn't buy into the actual, the meat and the bones of the product kind of thing."
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to buy into the meat and the bones of the product from Kickstarter as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think unless you've played a game, it doesn't even matter if you read reviews. Unless you played a game, you don't know if you're going to like it, in my view. And if you buy a game, then you're taking that risk. And Kickstarter, I mean, my game taste, I don't know about yours, but my game taste changes from month to month, never mind about year to year. So I'm backing something on Kickstarter that's going to get delivered in a year and a half's time. I'm going to be playing hopscotch instead or something like, what I mean? I'm going to be into.
Get me sticking.
I don't know what I'm going to be into at that point. Yeah, but yeah, I'm going to be. I don't know. My taste will have moved on, I'm sure, at that point. And the hype surrounding. The hype surrounding Gloomhaven is obscene. And it just like seconds before that was Seventh Continent, wasn't it? Then there was massive hype about that, and massive hype about Rising Sun, and it's
But is that what they're looking for, though? I mean, is it the chase of the next big hype thing? I mean, if you think about, like, say, the Dark Souls board game.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's got the Dark Souls board game.
You know, I had the developer Dave Carroll on, you know, a couple of times, and the first time I was like really excited. The second time it was a bit more kind of introspective. You know, we did what we could, kind of like we're proud of where we are, and it's become a bit of the victim of the backlash. I don't know. It's kind of like a really, really strange place as far as kind of Kickstarters go, because, you know, as I say, it is kind of like, where's the next Rising Sun going to be? Where's the next kind of thing? But the other thing about Kickstarter for me is the price of Kickstarter is so high.
Yeah.
So high now. It's just, I can't even, you know, I'd like to support people where you can and help out where you can, but I mean, it's going out of an affordable kind of reach. I don't know if that's the exchange rate, but I mean, okay. I remember there was, when I was looking originally at Kickstarter like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, and the exchange rate was a case, it was like $100 was like 60 quid.
Mm-hmm.
So it was easy to kind of justify playing that. It was fine. But nowadays it's like, it's so close. $100 is like 85, and I'm having a second think and even say, do I really want to bother with this if I'm not going to be getting it right now? So it's a strange place.
It is, and also, you know, you're spending £100 on a game, which basically means you're going to get the game and a load of expansions for the game, or usually, or a load of minis or whatever. And if you're buying from conventional retail, that would be over a period of time. You know, that would be buy the base game, do I like it, continue on, yeah, I'll get the expansion and all that kind of stuff. But now you've got to go all in. You know, like Monolith's Batman, which I have bought Monolith's Batman actually, but I have played it. I played the demo copy and it was very good. But that was like, you're not going to get this in the shops. You can buy it from us now, or you can wait for the reprint when we kickstart it, or you're not going to get it. It's like, all right, I'll get it now then. But
I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if that's a lack of faith in your product, or if that's a case of, you know, we can only afford to do this once, and we can't really afford to get it kind of out again.
I think it's a case of, I mean, the rationale they're giving, and I can understand it, is they lose such a percentage on the middlemen that they'd have to price it so high at retail that no one would buy it, because there's a lot of plastic in there. So they'd rather just not involve the middlemen and just charge the consumers what they would charge the shops to buy it wholesale. And I can see that. And it's a valid strategy, but you've got all this fear of missing out business. And they did a good job of trying to get it out to as many places to demo it. I mean, I know one of the guys who was demoing it, and he was all over the place. So if you really wanted to demo it, you probably could have done. But it's a lot of money.
I think they needed to, though. I think for that IP, I think people, because it was on the back of Conan.
It was on the back of Conan.
I think people had lost a little bit of faith. I think if they hadn't demoed it, they would have still reached I think they would have still reached the figures. I don't think they would have reached as high.
They didn't do as well as they thought they were going to do, I think.
No.
Anyway, it's interesting. I think Conan was a good game. Certainly Batman's a good game. It's just, I think there was a few things with the expansions and things didn't really get play tested, did they? And things, as I understand. They included stuff that were not playable, basically.
Do you still skirt about the Kickstarter stuff, or do you kind of like, are you kind of like, okay, I'll check stuff out?
I back very few Kickstarter. I only back a Kickstarter if I am confident I will definitely like the product at the end of it, and there's not often you can do that. I think the only Kickstarters I've backed recently have been Mr. Cabbagehead's Garden, which I'm just in love with the art for that, so I don't care what the game's like. Yeah. Batman, I did a Pursuit of Happiness expansion because I love Pursuit of Happiness, and I've just backed the Football Highlights game because I really like the Baseball Highlights game, but I'm probably going to drop that because that will come to retail and I'll just buy it at retail, probably when it's on discount, so I don't really see the point in Kickstartering that. But the rest of it's too much of a risk for me.
I'm more kind of going down the indie route. I mean, I looked at Horizon Zero Dawn, and then I saw that the delivery date for that was 2020, and I was kind of
That's
like,
the future, surely. We'll all be on jet bikes.
Exactly. I was gonna go, only if you deliver me one of those floating hoverboard things, young man. But I think, but it's really weird because I think this is one of the things. Is like they've actually said, well, 2020, that's realistic and expected based on our previous performance with, again, it's like Steamforged, so it's like Dark Souls and Resident Evil, and folk are going, I'm not backing this because they've given an honest answer with regards to delivery. You know what I mean? It's
Tell me it's
instead of
next
them
week.
Exactly. Tell me it's December. Tell me December 2017.
The interesting thing is Monolith now, they've got this claustrophobia coming out. The only thing I keep saying, that's going to be just delivered as soon as you back it, as far as I'm aware. They've already made it, haven't they?
Exactly.
It's just pure pre-release stuff. Now,
which is
that's honest, I suppose. It's just interesting. It's just interesting how it's going.
But then it's like this whole change on Kickstarter. But we shall have to. I don't know. We'll have to see. Mm-hmm. As I say, to me, it's kind of like I'm more likely to look at somebody who's doing like an indie game, microbrew.
Yeah, no, I must admit I was tempted by microbrew after hearing them on your podcast. That sounded good, but I haven't done. Maybe I should have. Maybe I should say I have done just to give you validation.
No.
Indie games are too much of a risk for me. If I'm gonna, I want to be able to. I want somebody to review it who I trust, and I don't trust any of the people who do Kickstarter previews. So I'll wait.
Yeah. Is there a reason for that?
I think. Well, number one, I don't think the Kickstarters would put the video up if it said this is a crap game. And I think there's a lot of shilling going on amongst some reviewers, which is fine. That's how they make the money. But previewers or whatever, and you do get an overview of the game. But I don't know. There's plenty of games out now that I might want to buy. I don't need to buy one that's going to be delivered in 2020.
I know, but it looks so lovely. Dan, you have not seen this game. This game is the video game in plastic, and it speaketh to me because Horizon Zero Dawn was one of my most favourite video games of the other year. And
well, I've played Dark Souls, so that's no offence to your previous guests or anything like that, but
fair warned is fair warned. But the miniatures are lovely. I've got.
Well, that's fine. And if you're in it for painting those, then that's half the reason I got the Batman stuff, so I could paint the miniatures. Because I do like painting, and that's absolutely fine. I've got no problem with that at all. Yeah.
So, you're still. Is it interesting? Are you going to see? Are you kind of taking this sit and wait and see kind of attitude? Are you kind of? You sound like you're kind of like sitting back and saying, "Look, I like the hobby. I'm enjoying the hobby, but I ain't chasing the hobby. I'm kind of sitting back and letting the hobby kind of fold."
But I think that's a position that most people get after you've got your ages of board gaming, haven't you? You've got your first year where you're buying everything. And then you slowly, after a period of time, start slowing down on your collection, and you find you've got 300 games and you only play 50 of them. And the main barrier to you playing a game on your shelf isn't you've got no one to play it with. It's often that you can't be asked reading the rules. So, and I've reached that point about 6 months ago, and I love the hobby. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm burning with a fiery passion for it, and sometimes I'm like, I can't be bothered going down to games night tonight. But I think that's a good place to be. I think that's definitely a good place to be. I think it's just a consequence of doing it for 5 years, and that's where you get to. You get to be an old man of gaming after 5 years.
I remember when this was nothing but trees, Sonny.
I was thinking the other day actually about doing a spoof video and seeing if I could picture the dice tower, but I don't think I'd take it. Of saying, I'm going to give you my top 10 classic vintage games of all time. Number 1, Gloomhaven. It's just kind of Seventh Continent. Because how quickly do games go out of date because there's this constant need for new stuff that does something very faintly different to the old stuff. It's like
Have you seen Root yet?
no, I've got a friend who's rabid for playing it. I'm going to play it soon because he's managed to track down a copy. But no, that's a new thing, isn't it? But it won't be by a month's time. Everyone will have forgotten about it in a month's time.
No, it's amazing. I like that. It's fantastic. I really, really like it. It probably will be. You'll probably come back to me in a month and go, Root, what are you talking about? Been out in my garden.
Root. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Oh, that vintage game.
Do you want some turnip?
Come on, everyone's into hopscotch now. Yeah,
exactly. They've released Rising
Beyblades.
Sun.
We're all playing Beyblades.
Beyblades. We've got back with our Sprite and our Diet Coke yo-yos.
That's it, yeah. Oh man, I used to have a Diet Coke yo-yo. I remember
Everybody,
hitting someone in the eye with it. It was
I'm
good.
like, yeah, exactly. Or a Rubik's Magic.
Yeah, it's all. Is that the one with the rings on?
Yeah, that was one of the 5 rings that you turned from one thing into another. And you just used to get photo go, done, done. And that was the only thing you could do. But you get some folk that would turn it into a box with the 2 bits at the side. And they were just smart arses. And that was just like absolute kind of hatred. So it sounds like you've got some exciting things coming up. Well, you've got some steady paced kind of old man chat.
Steady paced old man chat. Yes, I've got this new. I've got 2 podcasts going on. I've got the Lee and Dan's Marvel Unlimited Book Club. I think that's what it's called. I can't remember. I'm so relaxed about these podcasts. I don't even know what they're called. And the other one's Sporadically Bored with Mike and Dan. So I like putting my name in the title because I'm a narcissist. So yeah, I've got those 2 podcasts going on. So if you can check those out. They're much like this podcast. They're just talking rubbish basically. And expecting other people to listen. And then I'm still doing the stuff over at the Dice Tower, Board Game Breakfast. I still am doing my review with Cora of Exploiting My Daughter for Z-List Internet Fame. And that's every second week I'm tending to do those now because I'm running out of kids' games. So I'm hoping to get a few more at Essen. But yeah, so we'll see how long that goes on. That'll go on as long as Cora really enjoys doing it, which she does. But as soon as she says she wants to stop, then that's going to stop. And I'm vaguely toying with the idea of resurrecting my Letters from Huddersfield series. And moving that over to Board Game Blender, which is another Dice Tower thing. But Z doesn't know about it yet, so we'll see if he accepts it.
The world exclusive here.
Exactly, but I'm hopeful he's desperate enough to accept my claptrap, which is a very tired joke at this point, where I write to board game designers in this kind of weird character of a man who is obsessed with his hometown of Huddersfield, which is my hometown, obviously, and wants them to retheme their board games and to feature Huddersfield. And the designers have been exceptionally funny and exceptionally nice. I mean, Matt Leacock's been amazing with his response to one of mine. I got one back from Bruno Cathala the other day, which made me laugh. These really big name... Stephen Bonacore, every time he sees me, you know, me and Stephen, we like this. Every time me and Stephen meet up, but he gets very excited and says Huddersfield to me and stuff like that. So it really amuses me.
Well, what we'll do is we will take these links and we'll put them in the show notes so that we have got notes to show, sir.
Yes, I've got them all collected on a blog of sorts called Letters from Huddersfield, I think it's called. So I'll give you a link to that. I would recommend you read them, not for my particular babblings, but just to see how funny these designers are who I've been harassing on the email. And most of them, at the beginning, for the first 5 or 6, I hadn't published any of them. I just published them on my the Facebook group for my local board game club. I wasn't intending doing anything other than entertaining my friends with it. So they don't. It's not like they know it's me messing around. It's just this random weirdo writing to them. So the fact they responded is very very kind indeed. Yeah.
But then I guess the next thing is the next version of Brass.
Yes. I've done Brass already. That's the first person I wrote to is Martin Wallace.
Of course you have. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
You never know.
Well, he might bring it out. He might bring it out though.
You don't know. Someone's going to do. I'm going to harass them until someone does. So we'll see.
Or you could bring it out yourself.
I could do. I've got a friend who's semi-working on a Huddersfield themed board game. And it's a good one as well. It's my idea, but I can't be bothered developing it. But it's a good one. It's about the Luddites, because the Luddites were a thing in Huddersfield. That's where the Luddite movement is very strong in Huddersfield. And some Luddites got hanged by the military for killing a mill owner. And it's a hidden movement game with the mill owners against Luddites, which is sort of based around brass as well. So yeah. It's a proper game. Proper game he's designing.
Yeah, you're taking me back there, because I was expecting you to just say, just to come out with something just completely outrageous.
No, I think it's a really interesting. It's a really interesting theme. I think we see lots of games with the theme of the Industrial Revolution, but never from the social side, never from the people who were harmed by the Industrial Revolution. It's always from the mill owners' side. You're always a capitalist. You're never one of the downtrodden. And I think it's an interesting theme to explore. So no.
It's just up here.
So it's not all joking.
No, it's serious. This is serious business, Dan.
Serious Luddite business.
Serious business. Where else can we find you on the internet webs?
I'm on Twitter, DGHughes28. I've got a love-hate relationship with Twitter.
Strong handle.
As probably most people have. Yeah, strong handle, DGHughes28. That's the 28's the age I was when I made the email address that was attached to, and I'm now 42. So yeah, so it's not a very strong handle, but yeah, and that's about it really. That's about it. I think.
Excellent.
Just consume my stuff.
Enjoy it. Bite it.
Consume and enjoy my stuff.
Consume and enjoy my stuff.
Take
if
it.
You want. Roughly. If you want to consume and enjoy our stuff, you can find us on various places on the internet webs. You can go to Twitter and find us on We're Not Wizards. You can go to Facebook and find us on We're Not Wizards. We're on Instagram. Guess where? We're Not Wizards. You can find us on Blogspot.
On brand, man. On brand.
Blogspot.
It's impressive. None of this number business for you, is it?
Nah.
It's all We're Not Wizards.
Exactly. It's all We're Not Wizards. You can go to Blogspot and look at stuff that we've written. It's not just me. There's intelligent people that write stuff as well. You can go to Tumblr. I have no idea why we've got a Tumblr.
Tumblr?
They put episodes into I have no idea how that works.
MySpace at We're Not Wizards.
People.
GeoCities, We're Not Wizards.
Ask Jeeves. Netscape.
That's it. Netscape. Alt, We're Not Wizards.
Sinclair Research.
Yeah. We've got one of those email phone things that they used to do. Sinclair used to put out an email phone. No, it was Amstrad, wasn't it? Email phone.
It was Amstrad,
you type in We're Not Wizards into that and lift up the handle and you'll get the podcast down your ear.
You'll get the podcast down your ear as well. Absolutely.
Right in your ears.
We're on CFAX.
Oh, yeah.
And we're also on various podcast catchers like Stitcher and Speaker and Acast and Podbean.
Are you on Spotify?
Are you on Spotify? Yeah, we're on Spotify. Yeah, we are.
Excellent, yeah.
We're on Spotify. People are actually listening to us on Spotify, which must be weird because they must be going, I'm going to get down with some funky jams. What's this? This isn't a funky jam.
Someone hijacked my Spotify. I got hacked. And they were just listening to Italian techno all the time. So all my playlists suddenly, all my recommended was Italian techno. It was very distressing.
Oh, that's excellent.
It wasn't excellent. It was
fantastic.
Awful. All my nice folk music got turned into Italian techno.
And remember, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts as well. And as we say, if you like what you've listened to, subscribe and like. If you're gonna like us even more, give us a review. If you're gonna give us a review, remember, don't give us 10 stars because it makes us big-headed. But don't give us 1 star because it'd make us cry. Give us something in the middle, like 5.
It only goes as high as 5.
Because it's average. What?
It only ever goes. Are you talking about podcast iTunes? It only goes up to 5.
Yeah, that's the joke, Dan.
Oh, is it the joke? Oh, okay, fine.
Don't give us 10. Don't give us 1. Give us something in the middle. It's 5. Right. It's an average, and we are decidedly average. But the person who's not being average tonight, everybody has to ruin this joke every single week, and I have no idea. Why can't you just leave it alone? I know iTunes.
Maybe it's not funny. I mean, I'm just saying.
I don't care. I'm stubborn. and I'm not going to change now. There's done 200 of these things, right? If you think I'm not going to change the joke now, you've got another thing coming.
I do apologise. I'll laugh next time.
I'm not
becoming mildly infuriated.
I'm not. I'm not rebranding. I'm not rebranding like Madonna or Elton John or anything like that. Okay. 5 average. But the person who's not been average is the rather wonderful His Lordship, His Grace, the Cardinal of Cards.
Cardinal of Cards. Thank you. Yeah.
The Man of Meeples, the Duke of Dice, the King of Tokyo. I give you, Mr. Dan Hughes.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're very, very welcome. There's only 2 more things to do. The first thing is to remember that we are many things, but we're not wizards. Are we wizards, sir?
I am certainly not a wizard, no. And nor are you.
Thank you very much. And the second thing is to say goodbye. So goodbye from Dan. Say goodbye, Dan.
Goodbye, Dan.
And it's a goodbye from me. Remember, stay safe. Roll6s.com. And we're going to put all the
page 732.
CFAX page 734. They shifted it right next to the...
the cricket stores.
We always get moved. I mean, it's not like even cricket's as exciting as our show. I have no idea. Anyway, CFAX 734. But until the next time, goodbye.
Goodbye.
A wizard is never late. Nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to.